Everybody, how's everyone doing today? Today we are going to be working and learning on how to find volume on irregular three-dimensional figures. Okay, so for the most part, everyone has done a great job on finding the volume of rectangular prisms, which is the standard way of finding volume that we the standard figure that we use for volume. But sometimes we come across three-dimensional figures that are irregular figures, such as an example I have here on the screen. Okay, so we're still going to be using length times width times height, which is the formula for volume. But there's a specific strategy that we do in order to solve this, right? Because you can't multiply all of the numbers you see on the screen to find it, because you need to just multiply length, width, and height. So how do we do that? Okay, so the first way, or the way we do it first, is we need to be able to divide this shape into two, maybe three rectangular prisms. So we need to cut it apart first, and then we need to create out of that one figure, we need to create multiple figures, okay? The way I always say it, the less figures, the better. So I'm going to draw a line, okay, right across. So if you see, I've just made two figures. I can have this called figure one, and I can have this one figure two, right? Now that I have two figures, and now there are two rectangular prisms, I can find the length, the width, and the height for each of them. Okay, so now watch this. All right, so let's find the bottom, which I think is the easier one, the length times the width of figure two. So the length, right, which would be right here, would be 9. So 9 times the width of 4 times the height right here. So this is width, the height of 2. Okay, so now I need to find, no, now we have to get the volume of figure 2. So 9 times 4 is 36, and then multiply by 2. 36 times 2. I know 2 times 6 is 12, 2 times 3 is 6, plus the 1 is 7. So I have a total volume of 72 feet cubed, right? So figure 2 is 72. So I can put a little 2 here. All right. One thing about this lesson is that you need to be rather organized. You can't just be a little messy. You have to label everything. So figure 2, right? I know is 72. Now let's find out figure 1. So same thing. I need to find the length times the width times the height. But notice here, the length, right, is different. All right. If I notice here, the length, right, coming across, right, is right here, right, which is 3. So if I plug it in, length of 3 times the width, which the width would be here. Notice how right here, the width on this side and the width here and the width here, they're all congruent. So I can tell that the widths are congruent, so I can use 4. And then the height is right here, right, of 2. So 3 times 4 is 12, and then 12 times 2 is 24. So I just found the volume for figure 1. So now, the easiest part about all this, hopefully you multiply correctly. Hopefully you did all your work. Last but not least, to get the total volume, you would have to add everything together. So just to get the total volume of this whole entire figure, I would add 72 feet plus 24 feet, and I would get 2 plus 4 is 6, 7 plus 2 is 96 would be our answer, okay? So we're gonna try, I'm gonna do a few examples. You're gonna notice on the classwork I gave you, I'm gonna give you guys about 4 or 5 problems instead of the 10 that I usually give you guys, because I know it's a lot, kind of gets a lot, it's a lot of work, okay? But now I'm giving you 4 or 5 problems. I don't want you to start clicking. I want you to actually do your work. Remember, I can't go and check that you guys are doing your work. I'm going to, I hope that you guys are doing Scouts Honor, right? And doing your work and trying your best, okay? Because remember, we're doing this and learning. This isn't for me. This is for you, okay? So when you come in, when you guys are getting ready for 6th grade next year, I really hope that you guys are prepared. All right, let's go. Let's do a little more simpler one. Okay, let's work on this 3D figure here. So this is an example from the textbook. And notice how it cuts it for you. So this is kind of giving you a hint. So notice how I have an irregular three-dimensional figure, so I can't find the volume like this. So I would need to cut it to have multiple rectangular prisms. So it kind of gives me the angle right here. Notice I can cut this right here. Oops. I can cut right here. And notice this can be figure 1, and this can be figure 2. Okay, making my life a little easier. Now, this gets a little tricky. Okay, so for figure 1, we have a length of 2. So let me put figure 1 here. We have a length of 2. We would have a width, all right? I can't find my width here. So what's hard about this is making sure that you're making sense of everything, of all the numbers. So even though I don't see a width here, I know that the width here is congruent and the width here, because it's rectangular, right? Rectangular have opposite sides congruent. So the width, right, is 4. Now, how about the height? I see height here, okay? So I know from this corner right here to this corner right here is 5 inches. Now, I can't multiply by 5 because notice how I cut it, right, at a certain measurement, okay? So that would need me, right, or you, the student, to notice that I have a height right here of 2 inches. So I have a height of 2 inches here, 2 inches, 2 inches. So if this is 2 inches here, what would be the missing length here? Very simple. 2 plus what gives me a total of 5? That answer is 3. So I would have a height of 3. Okay? And that's a little confusing. We're going to do one that looks very similar to that one in a couple minutes. All right? So I have the formula for figure 1. Length of 2 times width of 4 times height of 3. So let's find that volume. I know 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 times 3 is 24. So figure 1 has a volume of 24. Now, let's see figure 2. Okay? So even though it does say 5 here, right? This is what I want to stress the most. This is the hardest part about this lesson. That even though it's 5 here, doesn't mean you're going to multiply by 5, because notice that I have cut it, right? So that I have 2. So that total height of the entire figure has been cut into pieces. Okay? So now, let's find the length, the width, and the height of figure number 1, which is all of this right here. Okay? Hopefully you guys can see the little white, right? Which is all of this. So now the length from here to here, right? The length would be 8 inches. The width, 4 inches. And the height would be, so we kind of gave it away here. We kind of gave it away right here. If I gave 3, a height of 3 on figure 1, and the total is 5, what would I have left here? And that answer is 2. So I would have a height of 2. Now, last but not least, multiply them. I know 8 times 4 is 32, times 2, 64. So I have figure 1, which is 24 cubic inches, and I have figure 2, which is 64 cubic inches. So now to find the total volume, I just need to add them. 4 plus 4 is 8, 6 plus 2 is 8. So I have a total volume of 88 cubic inches, or cubic inches, however you want. But for the class where you guys can just put the numbers just to make you guys, just to make it more efficient. All right. Now let's do one that is very similar in shape, just different numbers. Let me see if I can find it. All right, right over here. Okay. So here's one that's very similar, right? Just the numbers are changed a little bit. Okay. So now let's start off with step 1. Step 1, we realize it's an irregular three-dimensional figure, so I need to be able to cut it. I need to be able to cut it into multiple rectangular prisms. All right. So where would be the best way of cutting this this three-dimensional figure? Okay, give you guys a couple seconds. All right, so hopefully you guys got it. So the sweet spot would be right here. So if I cut, right, you see? By the way, you don't have to do it all the way. You can just make sure you analyze it. Boom, there's a cut, right? So I have found a way that I can just cut it. Okay, what's another way I can cut it? Do I have to cut it that way? No, I can also cut it straight down. Let me make it a thinner. I can just go straight down, right? So notice I have a figure on the left and I have a figure on the right, okay? It doesn't matter, you're still gonna get the same thing. So let's try it this way, okay? So I have figure 1 and I have figure 2, okay? Now, how do I find the figure of figure 1? Now, let's go back to this dimension right here, this 10, this 10. This 10 inches is measuring from this side all the way to this side. Now, for figure 1, would the length be 10 inches? Just if you add any logic or common sense, you can obviously see that there's no way that this little piece right here, will be 10 inches because the whole entire length of the figure is 10 inches. Okay, so this is where you need to take a step back, right, and zoom out and notice where else do you see length? Okay, and if you notice, you see length right here, and length right here, and length right here, and that length would be 2 inches. So for figure 1, we have a length of 2 inches, right? Because this would be 2, which is congruent to this side, and this side. Where can we see width? Width would be here, width would be here, width would be here, and width would be here. And they are all congruent, so the width would be 4. And then height, very simple. We're going from the top to the bottom, which tells me right here, which is 6 inches. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 6 is 48. So figure 1 has a total volume of 48 cubic inches, okay? Now, how do we find, now let's go back to figure 2, okay? So we can complete this one, all right? So let's go back to the length, right? Because when the dimension that you have to cut is where it gets very tricky. So out of my total 10 that I had already used 2 cubic inches I used 2 cubic inches of that 10 inches to be able to find the volume for figure 1. So what if you already used 2 inches out of the 10, how much do you have left over? That would be 8 inches. And I hope everyone got that. It's kind of like changing your money, right? If you had $10, you use 10. If you use 2, you would have $8 remaining. In this case, 8 cubic inches remaining to find your volume for figure 2. So I know I have the length of 8. I know I still have my width of 4, and I have my height of 2. 8 times 4 is 32. Times 2, 64. Last but not least, add figure 1 and figure 2 together, and you will get your answer. 8 plus 4 is 12. 1 plus 6 is 7. Plus 4 is 11. So you have, your answer would be 112 cubic inches. All right. I kind of hope we're getting the hang of this. I don't expect us to know it right away because even though we're all geniuses and we're all smart, this is a new concept, okay? So let's try another one. Let's try another simple one. We'll save that one for last. So let's work on this one right here. So this one is a little intimidating because there's a lot of numbers. But just like all the other ones, let's find a sweet spot where we can cut. Think of like a knife. You're going to cut somewhere where if you were to cut it, you would have 2, maybe 3 rectangular prisms. Okay, remember 2 is always better than 3, but sometimes you're gonna have to go to 3, which I'll show you in the next example. So you can see right here, if I were to draw a line right here, perfect, simple, boom. I would have figure 1, and I would have figure 2. Okay, so how can I solve figure 1? Obviously, length times width times height. This one's actually not that hard. It's probably one of the easier ones, right? I know I have a length, right? So going across a length of 7. I have a width. My width is right here, right? Which would be 6. and I have a height of 1. Find that. 7 times 6 is 42, times 1 is 42. So I have a total of 42 cubic centimeters. Now, let's find figure 2, add it together, and then we're done. Okay. Length. The length can't be 7, but what do I see here? I actually have a length right here. I have a length of 3. I have a width. My width is right here. It's given to me with the little arrow. Shout out the arrow. Of 2. And I have a height. Notice how this is all heights. All heights are congruent to the 1. So I have 3 times 2 is 6, times 1 is 6. Last but not least, add up my 2 figures. 42 cubic centimeters plus 6 cubic centimeters would give me 48 cubic centimeters, and that is my final answer. So my volume is 48 cubic centimeters. But once again, on the assignment, you just put the number. Just put the number, okay? All right, let's go to this one. This one's a little tricky. It's one of the harder ones, okay? Now, how can I solve this? I call it a monster, right? This is a little difficult, okay? Let me zoom this up a little bit. Okay, because here's I like to call this an irregular figure because it's just a lot. It looks kind of like a table. It's a lot going on, okay? And I hope you guys can notice by looking at this figure, there's no way that I can cut it and make 2 rectangular, right? There's no way I can do that. So I would need to have more than 2, okay? So the way I would personally do it, okay, would be to cut into 3, right? So I would have figure 1, I would have figure 2, and I would have figure 3 right in the middle, okay? I can even do it like this so you guys can get a little easier for you guys to see. Now, how can I find the volume of these figures? Okay, so let's start off with the easy one, right? This easy one right here, this one looks very simple, looks a little easier, okay? We have figure 1. Actually, this is gonna be hard. This one's actually gonna be hard. I think this way actually is gonna be a little more difficult. So I think a way we can do this actually would be, let's backtrack. All right. I would probably have to make it somewhat like this. Y this would be figure 1. This would be figure 2. And then we'll have figure 3. Why is Ms. Martinez gonna do it this way? Okay. Now I thought the other way was gonna be more efficient, but by looking at my numbers here, especially these on the bottom, right? I kind of noticed that this right side of the figure is a lot longer than the side on the left side. So it's a little lopsided. So I'm gonna find the volume like this, okay? I think it's gonna be easier because I can notice that these are congruent. So I have my widths, okay, and then I can worry about the heights, right? And I have my lengths here, which is a little easier. Okay, so let's find the volume of figure 1. So obviously length times width times height will give me volume. So I know for figure 1, I have a length of 2. I have a width, right, of 3 because it's given to me up top. And I have a height of 3, right? I have a height of 3. So 2 times 3 would be 6, times 3 would be 18. So boom, 1 down, 2 more to go. So I have a total of 18. Well, that's an ugly 8. Of 18. Now let's find figure 2. Figure 2. I have a length times width times height to give me volume. I know length would be 2. I know width would be the same as the other ones of 3. And my height, okay? Now, this might get a little tricky. Okay, you might think 6, but if you notice I cut it, it kind of helps me out right here, right? It has a little height of 4. So we're technically using 4 inches of height of this total 6. So we have a height of 6. So 2 times 3 would be 6 times 4 would be 24 cubic centimeters. Now time for the final boss, right? 3 length times width times height. So length going across, I have the big old 10. I know I have my width of 3. And now what would my height be? So let's go back to the example we did when we had 10 inches and we used 2. I had a total from top to bottom of 6 centimeters in height. But if I notice, since I cut it, I already used 4. So 6 minus 4, I have 2 centimeters in height. So 10 times 3 is 30, times 2, 60. And I'm done. So this was 24, this was 60. Now, last but not least, to finish this off, let's add up all our volumes of our 3 figures that we created just to get the overall volume of this irregular figure. 0 plus 4 is 4, plus 8 is 12, regroup, 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So I have a total of 102 cubic centimeters, which would be my total volume. And I'm done. All right. Boys and girls, I hope this video helped out. For those that are watching the videos, thank you so much. It does show that how well you guys are doing on the assignments. Once again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to call me, message me. If you didn't do so well on the assignment, hey, Ms. Martinez, can you reassign? Can you explain it to me? If you guys want Zoom meetings, I'm open to that as well. I just think the YouTube videos are more efficient because I know people are on different schedules, okay? So once again, let me know if you have any questions. Hope everyone continues to stay safe and hope to see you guys soon, all right? Bye, guys.